Major League Baseball has made changes to its drug policy. The league and the MLB Players Association announced Friday that both sides have agreed to tougher rules for players who are caught cheating. Starting this season, the amount of random urine tests will double from 1,400 to 3,200 per year, while the amount of blood tests for human growth hormone will increase to 400 per year. First-time offenders will now serve an 80-game suspension plus a postseason ban. Second-time offenders will now serve a 162-game suspension with a postseason ban. And players who are caught for a third time will be suspended permanently. MLB's drug policy was first put into place back in 2005 in the wake of the steroid era scandal. The Chicago Bears say they aren't interested in DeSean Jackson. The wide receiver was released by the Philadelphia Eagles Friday morning. The Bears aren't exactly in the market for a receiver thanks to players such as Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. Plus, the Chicago Tribune says that the Bears don't have the salary cap space to afford the type of contract that Jackson is seeking. Jackson was drafted by the Eagles in the second round of the 2008 NFL Draft. A recent series of reports by the website NJ.com highlighted a growing concern about his off-the-field behavior. While it hasn't been confirmed, it's believed that those reports played a part in the Eagles' decision to release the speedy receiver. There have also been questions about his relationship, or lack thereof, with head coach Chip Kelly, as well as his poor attitude and work ethic in practice. If those reports are indeed true, the Bears definitely don't want that type of distraction in their locker room. Jackson led the Eagles last year with 82 receptions, 1,332 receiving yards, and 9 touchdown catches. The Eagles tried to trade him over the last couple of weeks, but were unsuccessful. I'm Gabe Salgado, and you're listening to Rivet. Northwestern football players can unionize and receive collective bargaining rights, according to a ruling by the Chicago office of the National Labor Relations Board this week. In response, Northwestern University has announced that they will appeal the NLRB's decision on April 9th. Former Northwestern quarterback Kane Coulter, through the College Athletes Players Association and backed by the United Steelworkers Union, has led the charge to form a union for college football players. According to Coulter, the CAPA's mission isn't to gain compensation for college athletes. Instead, their mission is to fight for medical benefits, scholarship protections for injured players, and long-term medical care for athletes who sustain career-threatening injuries while in school. Coulter and the CAPA testified before the NLRB in February that student-athletes are university employees because of the time and dedication that they devote to their sport and academic commitments while the schools profit off of their performances. Coulter also said that some players lose their scholarships if they're on the injured list for a lengthy period of time. He also noted that some athletes are unable to continue their playing careers beyond college because of serious injuries, and in most cases they are forced to pay the medical bills themselves. The NLRB agreed with Coulter and the CAPA and ruled that the athletes have the right to unionize and negotiate with the schools. Northwestern's appeal is backed by both the Big Ten Conference and the NCAA, who opposed the NLRB's historic ruling. While the judgment was a small victory for Coulter and Northwestern's players, the process is far from over. The appeal procedures could take anywhere from a few weeks to a couple of months, and this issue could wind up being resolved by the court system. I'm Gabe Salgado, and you're listening to Rivet. The Chicago Cubs win their first game of the year. Thursday, they defeated the Pittsburgh Pirates 3-2 at PNC Park and are now 1-2 on the season. Cubs third baseman Mike Olt hit his first major league home run, while first baseman Anthony Rizzo and right fielder Justin Ruggiano each added an RBI. Right-handed pitcher Jason Hamill picked up the victory for the Cubs by pitching 6 2/3 innings and only allowing 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 walk. He also struck out 5 batters. Wandy Rodriguez took the loss for Pittsburgh by allowing all 3 of the Cubs' runs to go with 5 hits and a walk in 6 innings of work. The Cubs will make their home debut Friday when they welcome the Philadelphia Phillies to Wrigley Field. Left-hander Travis Wood will take the mound for the Cubs as he makes his season debut. The Phillies, on the other hand, will counter with right-hander Roberto Hernandez, who's also making his first start of 2014. I'm Gabe Salgado, and you're listening to Rivet. The Chicago White Sox have lost their first game of the season. They failed to sweep the 3-game series with the Minnesota Twins as they lose 10-9 at US Cellular Field Thursday. The Sox record now stands at 2-1. They led 8-5 after 6 innings, but that lead vanished over the next 2 innings. Thanks to RBIs from Twins first baseman Chris Colabello and third baseman Trevor Plouffe, followed by a home run from catcher Josmil Pinto, the game was tied at 8 in the 8th inning. In the bottom of that inning, Sox second baseman Marcus Semien hit a solo home run to give his team a 9-8 lead. Unfortunately, the Sox bullpen failed again as the Twins got RBIs from Plouffe and right fielder Oswaldo Arcia in the top of the 9th to take the lead for good. Closer Matt Lindstrom takes the loss and the blown save as he gave up those final 2 runs. Twins relief pitcher Caleb Thielbar gets the win, while Glenn Perkins earns his first save of the season. Despite the loss, the White Sox continue to improve on offense. Aside from Simeon's home run, they also got homers from outfielder Alejandro De Asa and designated hitter Adam Dunn. Rookie first baseman Jose Abreu continues to earn his $68 million contract as he knocked in 4 RBIs. He already has 5 runs batted in on the year, and his average is currently .417. During this series with the Twins, the White Sox have scored 18 total runs. They're batting .301 as a team. The White Sox begin a 6-game road trip Friday, which takes them to Kansas City and then Colorado. Gabe Salgado, Rivet. The Chicago Bears have re-signed offensive lineman Eben Britton. Both sides agreed to a 1-year deal Thursday, which keeps last year's offensive line group intact. Britton played in 13 games last season where he was used mostly as an extra tight end. The Bears also used him as an extra blocker on certain passing plays. When tackle Jordan Mills suffered a foot injury in the season finale against Green Bay, Britton took his place for the remainder of the game. Before joining the Bears, Britton played for the Jacksonville Jaguars from 2009 through 2012. The Chicago Cubs could sell shares in the team to finance renovations at Wrigley Field. Comcast Sportsnet says a small group of investors would join the Ricketts as owners, along with the Tribune Company, which still owns 5% of the ball club. The family hasn't made a decision on whether or not to sell the non-controlling interest. Forbes recently put the Cubs' takeover price, including paying off its debts, at $1.2 billion. The Ricketts Family Education Trust paid $845 million for 95% of the Cubs, Wrigley Field, and 1/5 of Comcast Sportsnet Chicago. The underperforming Cubs may have a big TV payday if Fox starts a second regional sports network in Chicago. In July, the city approved a renovation plan for Wrigley Field that called for a $500 million investment from the family. The Cubs are allied businesses. That's $300 million for ballpark fixes and $200 million for a hotel and other improvements outside the park. I'm Gabe Salgado, and you're listening to Rivet. The NCAA men's basketball tournament concludes this weekend with the Final Four, which begins Saturday. The Florida Gators are the only number 1 seed to make the Final Four this year. They'll open up the national semifinal round Saturday afternoon against the Connecticut Huskies. The Gators are the odds-on favorite to win it all as they haven't lost a game in 4 months. They began the tournament with a victory over Albany, then followed it up with wins over top contenders in Pittsburgh and UCLA. In the Elite Eight, Florida ended the Cinderella story that was the Dayton Flyers. The Gators are led by forwards Casey Prather and Dorian Finney-Smith. Prather leads the team in scoring by averaging 13 points per game, while Finney-Smith leads the Gators in rebounding with over 6 per game. They'll have the difficult task of defending UConn's guard combination of Shabazz Napier and Ryan Boatwright. Both players consistently score in double figures, and they combined for 36 points, 5 steals, 5 assists, and 8 rebounds against Michigan State in the Elite Eight. This is Florida's first trip to the Final Four since 2007. That year, they won the second of back-to-back national championships. In the other semifinal game on Saturday evening, the 8th-seeded Kentucky Wildcats take on the 2nd-seeded Wisconsin Badgers. Kentucky's starting lineup consists of all freshmen, which rolled through the tournament by eliminating more experienced teams in Kansas State, Wichita State, Louisville, and Michigan. This is Wisconsin's first Final Four appearance in 14 years. The Badgers are known as a defensive team, and their defense will be tested as Kentucky averages over 70 points per contest. The winners of these games will play for the national championship on Monday night. This year, the Final Four will be played at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, the home of the NFL's Dallas Cowboys. The attendance for these games is expected to be in the 80,000 range. I'm Gabe Salgado, and you're listening to Rivet. Chicago Bears safety Chris Conte will be unable to participate in the Bears' upcoming offseason workouts. The Chicago Tribune reports that Conte had shoulder surgery recently and that he'll be out for 4 to 5 months. He'll definitely miss minicamps and off-season activities, and his availability for training camp in July is also in doubt. Conte was often the poster child for the NFL's worst defense last year. His missed tackles and blown coverages made him a target for the rage of angry Bears fans. His worst moment came in the season finale against Green Bay in December. He was covering Packers receiver Randall Cobb late in the fourth quarter when he turned away from him for just 1 second. That 1 second was enough to allow Cobb to run right past Conte and into the end zone to catch a 48-yard touchdown pass from Aaron Rodgers. That turned out to be the game-winning play which eliminated the Bears from playoff contention. Conte finished the season with 95 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups. When Conte does return, he'll have to work harder than ever to earn his starting job back. Over the last few weeks, the Bears signed free agent safeties Ryan Mundy, M.D. Jennings, Danny McCray, and re-signed veteran Craig Stelz. I'm Gabe Salgado, and this is Rivet.